Imagine a law that automatically canceled every mortgage, every loan, every debt in the country on a fixed schedule with absolutely no exceptions. Sounds like a modern proposal, right? Well, it's actually 3,000 years old, and it was written into law before anyone had even heard the word economy.
Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into a fascinating case study on the only economic system in recorded history that came with a built-in wealth inequality circuit breaker. It's called the Debt Jubilee.
Section 1. Agrarian Wealth Consolidation.
So let's establish the baseline mechanics here. We're looking at ancient Israel, roughly 1400 BCE. In an agrarian system, land is your wealth and land is your collateral. The math of unregulated agrarian economies is brutal and honestly entirely predictable. You have bad harvests, those trigger debt. Defaulting leads directly to land loss. Left unchecked across generations, wealth and power are mathematically bound to consolidate into fewer and fewer hands.
Section 2. The 50-year circuit breaker.
To stop that monopoly consolidation dead in its tracks, lawmakers engineered a highly specific macroeconomic mechanism. The base unit here operates on the number 7. Every 7 years was a sabbatical cycle. During this time, debts were temporarily paused, and the land itself was legally required to rest.
Now let's escalate that out. After 7 of these cycles, exactly 49 years, the system was mathematically primed.
Hit that 50th year, and you trigger the Jubilee. Every single debt is completely canceled. Every parcel of ancestral land returns immediately to its original owner, and it doesn't matter who currently holds the deed. Let's look closely at this legal framework, specifically from Leviticus chapter 25. Under this system, land wasn't actually sold. Prices were calculated on a sliding scale based on the years remaining until the next forced reset. So a land sale was literally just a lease until the next Jubilee. The closer you were to that 50th year, well, the cheaper the lease.
Section 3. Forced reset in action. When that 50th year hit, the macroeconomic outcomes were immediate and totally non-negotiable. Year 50, the farmer who lost his field to debt a decade ago, he gets his collateral returned instantly, completely free of charge. Original families simply walk right back onto their ancestral land. Next up, indentured servants. Individuals who were forced to sell their labor to cover unpayable debts literally just walk out of wealthy households. They're free by law. There's zero negotiation.
And what about the investors? Well, wealthy landowners who spent decades systematically acquiring land and building massive estates, they lose those acquisitions automatically, without a choice.
You've got to strip away any religious veneer here. This was ruthless, engineered anti-monopoly legislation installed directly into the law. The Jubilee was a forced reset button that operated entirely independent of politics, personal goodwill, or charity.
Section 4. The Anti-Monopoly Simulation.
To really see why this is critical, we can run a comparative simulation of the macroeconomy over a multi-generation timeline. We've got a regulated debt market utilizing the Jubilee rules versus an unregulated debt market that just allows for natural consolidation.
Here's the unregulated outcome. Without that circuit breaker, wealth concentrates permanently. Over time, 90% of the wealth is inevitably held by just 1% of the estates. It creates massive, totally irreversible inequality.
But now, look at the Jubilee timeline. The circuit breaker fires every 50 years, successfully preventing permanent monopolies. Wealth remains evenly distributed across small family plots, which maintains a stabilized, decentralized economy.
Section 5. Modern economic parallels. Let's bridge this 3,000 year gap for a second. Contemporary economists are actually still arguing for modern iterations of this exact macroeconomic mechanism. We see it today in aggressive proposals for sovereign debt relief, student loan forgiveness, and sweeping wealth taxes.
In fact, prominent economists like Michael Hudson point directly back to this ancient law as the literal, historical foundation for modern debt forgiveness theories.
Because when you look at our current data, modern wealth inequality has been trending aggressively upward over the last 50 years. This is exactly what it looks like when an economy runs without an automatic circuit breaker.
Which brings us to a pretty stark realization. Despite being highly effective anti-monopoly legislation developed 3,000 years ago, almost no government has ever fully implemented this safeguard again. It's the reset no one copied.
Bible finance, ancient text, modern economics. Join us for our next explainer, the Shepherd's Silver Empire.